All right.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool, cool. Give it a minute or two, see if anybody else is showing up here. Maybe out for this format, just FYI, I'm just kind of starting this here on the advice of my Tibetan Buddhist teacher, who recommended that I just kind of start, doing some guided meditations, doing some really basic teachings on some basic Buddhist principles of compassion and things like that. So right now the format is going to be just basically a nice, easy guided meditation, not a whole lot of Q&A and things like that. But I wanted to just let anybody know who's participating that I'm definitely open to any questions or feedback or discussion, and we can talk, as things move on. People are interested in more stuff like that. And right now it's going to be just really chill, nice, relaxing meditation, and just kind of talk through and imagine ourselves becoming more compassionate beings. Okay. Cool.
Sounds good.
Alrighty. And I do, it's 12:01, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So again, so I'm coming from a Buddhist background, so I'll do a couple of Buddhist prayers in the beginning, and then at the end, you're welcome to participate in those as you like. There's no requirement to be a Buddhist or to even aspire to be one to participate in this, just so you know. But I do offer those two little prayers in the beginning and the end, kind of setting the intention in the beginning and the motivation, and then ending with a dedication of the positive energy that we've created in our practice today towards the benefit of everyone in our lives, ourselves and everyone in the world. So that's what we will do. So I did share the prayer in the message section of this particular meetup today. So if you're interested, you can find it there. But we'll just go ahead and start out with that intention. And then it's important in any activity that we're doing to clarify our intention and our motivation. So, and to make that motivation as positive, as kind of far-reaching as we possibly can. So this is our Buddhist meditation that we start with. Again, you can just listen along. No need to say the prayer or anything. You can just kind of follow along. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha by practicing generosity and the other far-reaching attitudes. May I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By practicing generosity and other far-reaching attitudes, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Practicing generosity and the other far-reaching attitudes, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. Generating that positive motivation today, we'll just begin to take a little bit of time to settle into the present moment awareness. Very gently and very easily lot of loving kindness and passion for ourselves, begin to bring our awareness to our breath. Just notice the sensations of the breath as it comes in to the nose, out to the mouth. Noticing that when we're aware of the breath, there's nothing else that we have to do if we want to just bring ourselves into the present moment. Because our breath is always in the present. Possible, in fact, to breathe in the past or to breathe in the future. We can only be breathing right now. By just being aware, breath rise and fall of our abdomen and our chest. Air passing into our nostrils, filling our lungs. Being aware of that brings us right into the present moment. And thoughts will come up. Our awareness of the breath, we'll find ourselves becoming distracted from time to time, and just know that that's perfectly okay. When we notice that we've become distracted with a thought or a sound or a sensation, or any sort of distraction at all, we just notice that. And then very gently, very kindly, very patiently, just bring our attention back to the breath. No problem. And if we find it to be helpful or useful, we can use the method of counting our breaths, counting each cycle. Sometimes that can help us to just keep that awareness going a little bit longer. So each inhale, we count 1, and the exhale is also 1. The next breath, we count 2. And maybe by the time we get to 2, we realize that we've drifted off thinking about something else. And again, no problem. Just start over again, coming back to 1, coming back to the breath. The great Vietnamese Buddhist master Thich Nhat Hanh also offers a little bit of advice for meditation. We can allow ourselves a little bit of a smile while we're doing our practice as well. Remembering to stay lighthearted. And now, having cultivated a little bit of present moment awareness, allowing our minds to settle a little bit, and maybe even cultivating a little bit of that lightheartedness, we can begin to do a contemplation on compassion. Again, with the motivation that by contemplating compassion, by developing compassion within ourselves, that we benefit not only ourselves, but also others in our lives as well. And we can begin by kind of asking ourselves, what is compassion? And from a Buddhist point of view, compassion is the wish or the emotion or the aspiration that ourselves and all other sentient beings be free from suffering. May ourselves and all sentient beings be free from suffering. And that's all we have to work with right now. We don't have to work on how to do that. We don't have to work on actually making that happen. We don't have to worry about that. We just have to work on cultivating that wish, strengthening that aspiration. Building up that compassion muscle gradually. And we begin building that muscle by first examining what we might be able to call the truth of suffering or the reality of suffering. And reminding ourselves that we're right now in a very safe place. We're actually okay right now. We can begin to just kind of examine our own lives for examples of how we have experienced suffering. And we don't have to go too deeply into this. We can begin by just examining just very simple, everyday examples of suffering. How we might suffer by being tired, being hungry. How we have suffered by feeling too cold or too hot. The suffering of being thirsty. We can think about all the times we've just experience the suffering of being uncomfortable, of finding that perfect spot. Finally, yes, there I am. I finally got my perfect spot on the couch or in the chair or wherever. And then just mere moments go by and we're uncomfortable again. And that's a kind of suffering. Just recall that. And even just looking back on today, however long our day has been, we can probably find so many examples of the small sufferings of life. Little disappointments, unexpected things that come up and change our plans. Not getting what we want. Getting what we don't want. The suffering of just not quite being satisfied. The suffering of discontent. And while we're doing this, let's remind ourselves too that this is a very brave thing that we're doing, that this is something that really goes against the grain of our society. To spend any time at all actually acknowledging our suffering and with a sense of curiosity and open-mindedness, actually looking at it, acknowledging that it's there, recognizing that we experience suffering without doing anything about it, just simply noticing it. It's actually quite a brave thing to do. And so we can encourage ourselves knowing that. And having experienced in our meditation here recognizing and acknowledging some of the suffering that we have experienced and continue to experience, we can come back to that definition of compassion for a moment. The wish and the aspiration that ourselves and others be free from suffering. And we can begin to cultivate that wish for ourselves right now and just feel how that feels. May I be free from the suffering. Acknowledging that, yes, indeed, I do suffer. I experience suffering of all kinds. May I be free of that suffering. Because nobody wants to suffer. And feel what that feels like. Try to really feel what that feels like in your body. in your mind, in your heart. May I be free from suffering. May I be free from the suffering of being cold, hungry, uncomfortable, discontent. And allow that feeling of compassion to really take root in our hearts. That compassion for ourselves. May I be free from suffering. Make that feeling more and more intense. May I be free from suffering. And with that as a starting point, that compassion that we develop for ourselves and begin to cultivate for ourselves, we can now begin to turn our vision outward towards others. And we start very simple, very easy, and we just choose one person in our lives who we have good feelings towards. Someone that we could say that we care about, that we enjoy being around, someone important to us. And just like we did that contemplation, just going through our own experience and recognizing and looking at our own suffering, we can do the same for this person. Imagine them in front of you right now. Just imagine them with as much detail as you can, and with as much as you know about them. Look at all the ways in which you've witnessed this person suffer. In small ways or big ways. And here we can use our imaginations too a little bit, and we don't have to rely only on our experience. We can also make some assumptions. And we may not know exactly all the details of this person's suffering, but we can extrapolate from our own experience that yes, they probably experience a lot of the same sufferings that we do as well. And acknowledge that they experience the suffering of thirst, of hunger, that they too protect their bodies from the cold and the heat. And they don't want that suffering. And that this person too that we care about, that we find important in our lives, an important person in our lives, also experiences disappointments of all kinds. So many times has not gotten what they wanted. Life just didn't quite turn out how they hoped. Or when they got what they wanted, turned out it wasn't exactly what they wanted. Or maybe they've experienced fear. Maybe they've experienced loss, just like we have. And here's where this meditation, just for a little moment, may become a little bit painful, because we want to begin to generate this feeling of compassion for this person. This really strong wish, this beginning from this sense of empathy and understanding and acknowledgement of their suffering. Develop this wish that we can't even stand the idea of them suffering, because we do care about this person. And when we stop to think about it, we don't want this person to suffer, not even for a moment, just like we don't want to suffer for even a moment. So this person that we care about also does not want to suffer. And feel that ache of compassion as much as possible. Bring that up as much as possible. May this person not experience suffering. May they be free from suffering, just as I want to be free from suffering. May this person be free from suffering. And just refresh that as much as possible. Again, bringing that person to mind, visualizing them there, seeing them before you, recognizing their suffering, empathizing with that suffering, cultivating that wish that they be free from that suffering. And then in closing this meditation, we can just kind of touch again on the definition of compassion. May I and all beings be free from suffering. Just let this experience dissolve. And feel a sense of happiness and joy that we've done this practice today. Taken a little bit of time out of our day when we could have done anything at all. Instead, we decided to just go ahead and practice a little bit of compassion, bringing a little bit more compassion into this world, into our hearts. Creating some positive energy, positive thoughts. Even just the thought of benefiting even one other person is just so powerful. Recognizing that, rejoicing in that, feeling good about that. We then do what's called a dedication of the merit. So taking this positive energy, this positive action, and sort of setting at the end of our practice a further motivation, kind of take this energy now and may it result in even more positivity in our own lives, in the lives of those around us, and in the world in general. And there's 2 short little verses of dedication that I'll do here. And again, I can put those in the group somewhere, and you can take a look at them if you like. But just generating that thought, may this practice that we've done today be of benefit to not only ourselves, but to others in the world in general, and in this nation. May not even the names disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. May virtuous qualities, merit, and prosperity greatly increase. And may continuous good fortune and sublime well-being perfectly arise. By this merit and wisdom, may all beings gain omniscience, and thus defeat the neuroses and negative actions which are the enemies. From the turbulent waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of cyclic existence, may all beings be liberated. And I thank you so much for showing up today. Thank you very much. It's nice to meet you. Do this every Tuesday at noon. So, love to see you again. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.